One miscalculation, one moment of lost timing. That's all it took to turn routine training into the 6 most terrifying gymnastic tragedies. These aren't just statistics. They're promising young athletes whose dreams ended in split seconds. It was March 15th, 2017, when 19-year-old Trevor Madison arrived at Elite Performance Gymnastics Center in Denver, Colorado, for what would become his final training session. The University of Colorado mechanical engineering student had always approached gymnastics with the same methodical precision he applied to his studies, breaking down complex movements into manageable components and analyzing every detail until perfection was achieved. Trevor worked part-time as an instructor at the same facility where he trained, teaching younger children with remarkable patience. His calm demeanor and technical knowledge made him a favorite among parents and fellow coaches alike. But beneath his gentle exterior burned an intense competitive fire that drove him to stay late after official training hours, perfecting routines that others might consider already flawless. That evening, Trevor was focused on his Tsukahara vault, a skill he had been developing for months in preparation for regional championships. The facility had recently adjusted their vaulting setup for an upcoming meet, and several coaches were out sick, leaving the remaining staff stretched thin across multiple athletes. His coach had stepped away briefly to assist another gymnast, leaving Trevor to continue his warm-up vaults at a lower difficulty level. It was a routine situation that happened countless times in gymnastics facilities across the country. Trevor began his approach run with characteristic intensity, building speed across the runway toward the vaulting table. But something was wrong. The vault table height had been adjusted earlier for a different athlete, and Trevor misjudged the configuration. As he planted his hands on the table, he realized the error, but was already committed with significant forward momentum. In that split second, Trevor attempted to adjust his technique mid-vault, but the altered body position caused him to over-rotate and lose spatial awareness. He landed awkwardly on his head and neck area, his body weight and rotational force creating severe trauma despite the presence of regulation safety mats. The angle and force of his landing exceeded their protective capacity. Other athletes and the returning coach immediately called for emergency assistance and began first aid procedures. Trevor showed no response to verbal or physical stimuli, indicating severe neurological damage. Emergency responders arrived within 8 minutes, finding him in critical condition with no voluntary movement or reflexes. He was rushed to Denver General Hospital, where imaging revealed a devastating spinal cord injury. For 3 agonizing days, Trevor remained in intensive care while his girlfriend Sarah, his family, and the entire gymnastics community held vigil. His parents, who had supported his dual pursuit of engineering and athletics, watched helplessly as their methodical, driven son fought a battle that even his analytical mind could not solve. On March 18th, Trevor succumbed to complications from his spinal injuries. The young man who had planned to use his engineering knowledge to improve sports safety had become a tragic reminder of the sport's inherent risks. The Elite Performance Gymnastics Center immediately implemented mandatory coach-to-athlete ratios and enhanced communication protocols for equipment adjustments. Trevor's family established a scholarship fund for engineering students interested in sports safety research, ensuring that his passion for both fields would continue to benefit others. The accident sent shockwaves through the gymnastics community, serving as a stark reminder that even the most experienced athletes and well-managed facilities are not immune to tragedy. Trevor's methodical approach to life had prepared him for many challenges, but not for the split-second miscalculation that would end his promising future. It was September 8th, 2018, when 16-year-old Brooke Chandler walked into Riverside Gymnastics Academy in Sacramento, California, for what should have been another routine Saturday morning practice. The high school junior had spent 8 years calling this gym her second home. balancing her Level 10 elite gymnastics career with her academic responsibilities and weekend shifts at her family's bakery. Working at the bakery had given Brooke unexpected advantages in gymnastics. Kneading heavy dough and lifting 50-pound flour sacks had developed the kind of functional upper body strength that translated perfectly to her uneven bars routine. Her naturally optimistic personality made her beloved by customers at the bakery and teammates at the gym, where she served as an unofficial captain despite being younger than many competitors. Brooke possessed an infectious enthusiasm that could lift the spirits of even the most discouraged gymnast. She had a gift for encouraging others, often staying after her own training to help newer team members work through challenging skills. Her coach, David Kim, had worked with her for 3 years and considered her one of his most dedicated athletes. That morning, Brooke arrived early for team practice, excited to work on upgrading her routine difficulty for the upcoming regional competition. Her parents planned to attend practice later, as they did most Saturdays, bringing homemade treats for the entire team. The uneven bars equipment was standard competition apparatus that had served the facility well for several years with regular maintenance. As practice began, Brooke warmed up with her usual precision, executing preliminary skills with the confidence that came from thousands of repetitions. She was working on a new release move sequence under Coach Kim's watchful eye, part of her strategy to increase her routine's difficulty score. The skill required perfect timing and spatial awareness. Brooke had to release from the high bar, complete a specific rotation, and re-grasp the bar at exactly the right moment. She had successfully completed this sequence dozens of times in recent weeks, building the muscle memory and confidence necessary for competition. But on this particular attempt, something went wrong with her timing. The release felt different from the moment she let go of the bar. Instead of the familiar rhythm she had developed, Brooke found herself slightly off axis, her body position altered by mere inches that made all the difference in gymnastics. She missed her re-grasp of the high bar, a situation that gymnasts train for extensively. The standard protocol was to fall safely to the thick mats positioned below, but Brooke's momentum carried her trajectory into the low bar support structure instead of the protected landing area. The impact occurred at significant speed, causing severe internal trauma that was immediately life-threatening. Coach Kim and other staff members instantly stopped all activity and called emergency services while beginning first aid procedures. Despite their quick response and the rapid arrival of paramedics, Brooke's injuries were too severe. She was transported to UC Davis Medical Center, but the 16-year-old who had brought joy to everyone around her could not overcome the trauma sustained in those few seconds. The gymnastics community rallied around Brooke's family, organizing fundraising efforts and providing support during their unimaginable grief. The Riverside Gymnastics Academy conducted a thorough review of all safety protocols and added additional protective padding around equipment. Brooke's family worked closely with USA Gymnastics to promote enhanced safety training for coaches and athletes nationwide. The accident contributed to updated guidelines for release move training and supervision requirements, ensuring that Brooke's legacy would include meaningful improvements to gymnast safety. It was November 22, 2016, when 21-year-old Austin Concincaid arrived at Metro Gymnastics Training Center in Atlanta, Georgia, for what would become his final evening of training. The Georgia Tech senior was pursuing aerospace engineering with the same methodical precision he brought to gymnastics, often staying late in both the lab and the gym to perfect his craft. Austin worked as a tutor for younger engineering students, displaying the same patience and analytical approach that made him an excellent training partner for fellow gymnasts. His quiet, introspective personality masked a fierce competitive drive that pushed him to break down complex skills into manageable components, often filming his routines to identify areas for improvement. The Metro Gymnastics Training Center was preparing for a regional meet, and Austin was determined to secure his spot on the university team for the upcoming season. His coach, Robert Chen, a former national team member, had been impressed with Austin's dedication and technical progress over the past 6 months, particularly on pommel horse, where his methodical approach was paying dividends. Austin's younger sister Emma was planning to visit from out of state the following week to watch him compete for the first time. This added motivation had driven him to spend extra hours perfecting his routine, wanting to make her proud during her first live viewing of his gymnastics career. That Tuesday evening, the training center buzzed with activity as multiple athletes prepared for their respective competitions. Austin focused on his pommel horse routine, an event that had been challenging for him, but showed significant improvement. The apparatus was one of the facility's older pieces of equipment, but it had been properly maintained according to standard protocols. Coach Chen was supervising multiple athletes during the busy evening session, moving between different events to provide guidance and spotting assistance. Austin had been cleared to work independently on his routine, having demonstrated consistent execution over recent weeks. As Austin mounted the pommel horse and began his sequence of circles and scissors, he displayed the improved form and rhythm he had developed through months of dedicated practice. The routine was progressing smoothly until he reached his signature combination of flares and complex transitions. During a particularly demanding sequence, where his legs extended horizontally, while his body weight was supported entirely by his arms, Austin experienced an unexpected loss of rhythm. The disruption in his carefully practiced timing caused him to catch his leg awkwardly on the apparatus. The broken momentum sent Austin into an uncontrolled fall from the pommel horse. Instead of the controlled dismount he had practiced thousands of times, he landed heavily at an awkward angle, striking his head on the edge of the safety mat where it met the gymnasium floor. The impact resulted in severe head trauma, despite the presence of standard protective matting. Teammates and coaches immediately responded, with Coach Chen calling for emergency assistance, while others provided first aid. Austin lost consciousness immediately and showed signs of serious neurological injury. Emergency responders arrived within minutes and transported him to Grady Memorial Hospital's trauma center. Austin remained in critical condition for several days while his family, girlfriend, and the entire gymnastics community maintained a vigil. On November 26th, Austin succumbed to his head injuries. The Metro Gymnastics Training Center immediately expanded their safety mat coverage and implemented additional spotting requirements. Austin's family donated his engineering materials to Georgia Tech and established a memorial scholarship. It was June 14th, 2019, when 17-year-old Sierra Dalton stepped onto the floor exercise mat at Pacific Coast Gymnastics Club in San Diego, California, for what would become her final performance. The high school senior had already committed to UCLA's gymnastics program, representing years of family sacrifice and unwavering dedication to her sport. Sierra worked part-time as a gymnastics camp counselor during summers, beloved by younger athletes for her encouraging nature and willingness to demonstrate skills repeatedly until every child felt confident. Her infectious enthusiasm and natural leadership qualities made her the unofficial team captain, often organizing bonding activities and serving as a mentor to newer team members. The Pacific Coast Gymnastics Club was hosting their annual showcase event, where Sierra planned to debut her upgraded floor routine featuring challenging tumbling passes she had been perfecting for months. Her coach, Lisa Rodriguez, had worked with Sierra for 5 years and considered her one of the most naturally gifted athletes she had ever trained. That Friday evening, Sierra was having her final practice session before the weekend performance. Her parents and younger brother had arrived early to watch the rehearsal, planning to celebrate afterward what they expected would be another successful showcase of Sierra's talents. The spring floor system was standard competition equipment that had been recently serviced as part of regular maintenance. Sierra had trained on this same floor for years, developing the muscle memory and spatial awareness that allowed her to execute complex skills with apparent effortlessness. As the final practice session began, Sierra warmed up with her characteristic energy and confidence. she moved through her dance elements and preliminary tumbling passes with the grace and power that had earned her the UCLA scholarship. Her routine showcased not just athletic ability, but the artistic flair that set her apart from competitors. The climax of Sierra's routine was her final tumbling pass, a challenging double layout combination that required perfect timing and exceptional air awareness. She had successfully completed this skill hundreds of times, building the consistency necessary for high-level competition. Sierra approached the diagonal with her usual speed and determination, her family and teammates watching with anticipation. As she launched into the double layout, everything appeared normal from the perspective of those observing. But something went wrong with her spatial orientation during the complex rotation. The mistimed execution caused Sierra to come down awkwardly, with her foot placement creating an unstable base of support upon landing. Her ankle rolled severely, causing her to lose balance and fall backward onto the spring floor surface. The fall itself might have been manageable, but Sierra's head struck the floor with significant force, despite the spring system's shock-absorbing properties. The impact resulted in severe head trauma that was immediately apparent to everyone present. Coaches and family members responded instantly, with Lisa Rodriguez calling emergency services, while others provided immediate care. Sierra had lost consciousness upon impact and showed no response to verbal or physical stimuli, indicating serious neurological damage. Paramedics arrived within minutes and transported Sierra to Rady Children's Hospital, where she was immediately taken into emergency surgery. The 17-year-old who had brought joy to everyone around her fought bravely, but the trauma sustained proved insurmountable. Sierra passed away 2 days later, surrounded by family and the gymnastics community. The Pacific Coast Gymnastics Club implemented enhanced landing technique training and additional safety protocols in her memory. UCLA's gymnastics program honored Sierra by retiring her intended uniform number and creating an annual scholarship bearing her name. It was August 3, 2015, when 20-year-old Logan Mercer arrived at Champion Gymnastics Academy in Phoenix, Arizona, for what would become his final training session. The Arizona State University sophomore was studying physical therapy, drawn to the field by his own experiences with sports medicine and injury recovery throughout his gymnastics career. Logan worked as a personal trainer at a local fitness center, using his gymnastics background to help clients develop strength and body awareness. His calm, methodical personality made him popular with clients who appreciated his scientific approach to fitness and his ability to break down complex movements into manageable steps. The Champion Gymnastics Academy had been Logan's training home since childhood, and he was preparing for his final attempt to make the national team before aging out of eligibility. His coach, Marcus Thompson, had been refining Logan's routine composition to maximize his scoring potential at the upcoming national championships. Logan possessed an almost scientific approach to skill development, often filming his routines to analyze technique and identify areas for improvement. This analytical mindset served him well in both his physical therapy studies and his gymnastics training, where precision and understanding of biomechanics were essential. That Monday afternoon, Logan was working specifically on his still rings routine, an event where his exceptional upper body strength gave him a competitive advantage. His girlfriend Jessica was planning to attend nationals to support him, having rearranged her work schedule to travel across the country for the competition. The still rings apparatus was standard equipment that had been maintained according to manufacturer specifications. Logan had trained on these same rings countless times, developing the strength and control necessary to execute the demanding static holds and dynamic movements that defined elite rings competition. As the afternoon training session progressed, Logan worked through his routine under Coach Thompson's supervision. The gym was moderately busy with other athletes training on various events, creating the typical atmosphere of focused preparation that characterized serious gymnastics facilities. Logan began his rings routine with a series of strength elements, demonstrating the exceptional control and stability that had become his trademark. He moved through crosses, levers, and other static positions with the kind of precision that separated elite athletes from recreational gymnasts. While executing a complex dismount involving multiple rotations, Logan experienced an unexpected loss of timing that altered his release from the rings. Instead of the controlled aerial phase he had practiced thousands of times, he found himself rotating with slightly different momentum than anticipated. The timing error caused Logan to land awkwardly, with his body weight distributed unevenly as he struck the landing mats. The impact occurred at an angle that placed excessive stress on his spine and internal organs. Despite the presence of regulation safety equipment, Logan immediately showed signs of serious internal injury, losing consciousness and displaying symptoms that indicated severe trauma. Coach Thompson and other staff members responded instantly, calling emergency services while providing first aid. Emergency responders arrived quickly and transported Logan to St. Joseph's Hospital. Logan underwent emergency surgery, but the internal injury sustained proved too severe. He remained in intensive care for several days while his family, Jessica, and the gymnastics community maintained hope. Logan passed away from complications related to his injuries. The Champion Gymnastics Academy immediately reviewed their safety protocols in his memory. It was January 19th, 2018, when 18-year-old Haley Whitmore stepped onto the balance beam at Precision Gymnastics Institute in Boston, Massachusetts, for what would become her final routine. The high school senior had deferred college acceptance to pursue her Olympic dreams, representing years of family sacrifice and unwavering dedication to elite gymnastics. Haley worked as an instructor for recreational classes on weekends, known for her patience and ability to make even the most nervous beginners feel confident and secure on the apparatus. Her natural grace and perfectionist personality made her beloved by younger students who looked up to her as a role model. The Precision Gymnastics Institute was considered one of the premier training facilities on the East Coast, and Haley had relocated from Vermont specifically to train there 2 years earlier. Her coach, Elena Petrov, a former Romanian national team member, had been working intensively with Haley to refine her beam work and eliminate minor wobbles. Haley's parents had made significant financial sacrifices to support her training, including her father taking a second job to cover coaching fees and travel expenses. They had invested everything in their daughter's dream, believing in her potential to represent the United States on the world's biggest stage. That Friday morning, Haley was practicing her balance beam routine for an upcoming competition that could secure her spot on the national team. The routine represented months of choreographic refinement and technical improvement, showcasing the artistic elements that set her apart from other competitors. The balance beam was standard competition equipment maintained according to manufacturer specifications and positioned at the regulation height of 4 feet 1 inch above the gymnasium floor. Haley had performed on this same beam hundreds of times, developing the muscle memory and confidence necessary for elite-level competition. As her morning training session began, Haley warmed up with her characteristic focus and determination. She moved through her preliminary skills with the poise and control that had earned her recognition as one of the country's most promising beam workers. The routine was progressing beautifully until Haley reached her signature back handspring sequence, a combination that required perfect timing and spatial awareness. She had successfully completed this skill countless times, building the consistency that coaches and judges expected at the elite level. But on this particular attempt, something went wrong with her hand placement during the back handspring. The slight adjustment in positioning caused her to overcorrect her balance, leading to a loss of control that she couldn't recover from in the narrow confines of the 4-inch wide beam. Haley fell from the apparatus at an awkward angle, her trajectory carrying her partially off the safety mats that had been positioned for normal dismount patterns. Instead of landing safely on the thick protective padding, she struck her head on the gymnasium floor adjacent to the matted area. The impact resulted in severe head trauma that was immediately apparent to everyone present. Coach Petrov and other staff members responded instantly, calling emergency services while beginning first aid procedures. Paramedics arrived within minutes and transported Haley to Massachusetts General Hospital, where she was immediately taken into the trauma unit. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, Haley's injuries proved too severe. She passed away the following day, surrounded by her family and the gymnastics community. The Precision Gymnastics Institute expanded its safety mat coverage and reviewed all beam training protocols in Haley's memory. Her family established a foundation supporting gymnastics safety research, ensuring that her legacy would include meaningful contributions to athlete protection. If these tragic gymnastic deaths left you shaken, click the next video now to explore more of the sport's most devastating accidents and the safety changes they inspired.